Well, thank you so much, students, for being with us here today. I know that this is an overwhelming time, and we want to be as supportive as possible with this process with you. So I know that you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I stand out? How do I make myself even more amazing? How do I talk about myself, whether that be through the essays or the activities that I list? So hopefully today, you'll feel a little bit more confident filling out your applications, and we will also be here to answer the questions at the end. So if there's anything that we don't address that you want some support with, we'll be happy to answer those questions at the end. So we're going to go ahead and get started on Stand Out in Your College app. So just wanted to, again, talk about some of you. We're noticing some of the names that were from our essay workshop we had last weekend. Today, we're going to be talking about how to stand out in your college application. The week after that, next Wednesday, will be same time. We're going to talk about strategizing your scholarship hunt. And then after that, the next Wednesday will be how to pay for college. So be sure to mark your calendar. Wednesdays, wherever the time zone, it's 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So some of you are in Hawaii. So that's going to be 5 a.m. 5 p.m. 5 p.m. your time, and it goes further as your time zones change. So we'd love to see you again with these next couple weeks. And we will actually be having Tanya CC in the house. Thank you, Tanya. Tanya will be presenting on standing out in your college application. So be sure to get your pen and paper ready, jot some questions. She's going to be sharing a lot of golden nuggets today on how to stand out in your application. Take it away, Tanya.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much. Yes, so I'm Tanya. I'm one of the admissions counselors here at Pacific. And before we get into how to stand out in your application, I want for you to know a little bit more about our team and who will get to read your application at Pacific. So I have up here pictures of our lovely team at Pacific here. And the way that admissions counselors are divided up is that we either get to support a whole state within the US. We also have an international admissions counselor, Gina, so that works with all of our international students. So, and then even within like states, they sometimes get broken up into counties. So you may see that like Oregon, for example, may have like 4 different counselors that support Oregon, right? One of the ways that you can find out who your counselor is through our website. So you can actually go in and figure out who your counselor is. Another way, it's an easy giveaway, is that we will actually be communicating with you guys pretty frequently over email. So you'll be receiving emails from your counselor specifically, right? So that's another way of getting to know who your counselor is. When you hit reply, you can actually communicate with us. And now with our team, as you can see, you know, we are all diverse and we all come from different paths of life. So whether your counselor has had, you know, over 40 years of experience supporting students or just a couple years, there are some things that we all have in common here. So we are all passionate about helping students access college, right? And we genuinely believe that Pacific truly prepares students for successful careers, which is why we choose to work for Pacific. So we want to get to know you, what your goals are, and figuring out if Pacific is the right fit for you. So admissions counselors play a similar role in different institutions, right? So they're a great point of contact to ask them questions, right? Pick our brains. Is it a specific program that you're interested in? Or maybe it's athletics or clubs that you're wanting to get more involved in? Reach out to us. We are a great point of contact and we can connect you to other people on campus. Now, we will support you from beginning to end, which is actually pretty unique. And it's the nice thing about working at a smaller university. So from the fall right now, all the way to the springtime and talking about college life and getting ready to move in, you will get to work with us, right? I don't get to pass a baton. I don't get to have a specific essay reader or email senders or coffee making assistants, although that would be super nice. It's all us, right? So when you come to campus, you'll get to see us here. We get to visit your high schools. You'll get to see us at some local college fairs. So we're just there to support you. Now that you know a little bit about our team and what we do and how we support students, we can get into how are admissions decisions made. So when we look at the application, we kind of look at the academic side and then the other side, the holistic side of the application, right? So through your transcript, that this gets sent to us through your school. So you can reach out to your counselor or your registrar at your high school, and they'll know what you're talking about if you don't know what a transcript is. But it essentially lays out to us what classes you've taken since freshman year all the way up to your current classes that you're taking, what grades you've received. So then that's one of the things that we look at, right? Your GPA. And one thing I want to remind all students is that at Pacific, we're working in your favor, right? Your counselor is your biggest advocate. So when I'm looking at your GPA, for example, I will be looking at the highest GPA. So if you have a weighted GPA on there, that's the one that I'll be looking at. And another thing that I look at on the transcript is if your grades fluctuated. So did they go up? Did they go down? Was it a specifically rough semester or maybe a rough year? So just looking for these kind of patterns that what I can grab from your transcript. Then also in your coursework, right? Maybe there were some subjects that you really did do well, right? So I like to highlight those. What classes you were taking. Did you challenge yourself with honors, AP, IB? Some students also took college courses, which is insane. You're an overachiever. So some reflected on your high school transcript, others don't. So if you have taken college credit outside of your high school, be sure to submit those transcripts as well, because it'll give us a full picture of everything that you were getting involved in throughout your high school career. Finally, the last piece of academics is test scores. Majority of schools have gone optional, including Pacific. However, at Pacific, submitting those test scores can actually increase or bump up your merit scholarship. So I encourage all students to submit their test scores if you've taken them. It cannot hurt you in any way. It can only help you. And what I've seen so far in my experience here is that students can be very critical of their scores. And this is human nature because I do it all the time too. So I get a student and they're like, I don't know if I want to turn in this score. I don't know if it'll be good enough. And then I look at this score and I'm like, this is a phenomenal score, right? This is a great score. You would be an amazing student here at Pacific. So turn it in anyways. Like I said, it cannot hurt you. And then the last three pieces of the application is kind of what makes our application holistic, right? So I just mentioned on, how I look at some numbers and maybe some trends going on in your transcript, but that's not the full picture, right? So I want to make sure that when we review an application, we're trying to get the whole picture. So this is why we include these additional pieces and tools for students to take advantage of them, right? So pieces like the essay and the short answer, which we'll go into a little bit later on. Same thing with activities and extracurriculars. And then for letter of recommendation, this isn't a requirement. However, if there is a piece in your application where you want an extra like advocate, right? You can ask your counselor or a teacher that knows you really well to speak on some of your academic efforts in this letter, and you can submit it as well. So we'll also review that as well. Now, through your transcript and through some of that like past achievements, right? It's a lot of what you did in the past. And you and I both know that we cannot change the past anymore, right? What is done. All we can do now is change our actions now, right? So I have great news for both the students that have received straight A's since freshman year, and also the students that may have taken a hit during the pandemic in the virtual setting, or maybe something else was going on in your life, right, that may have affected your academics, that you both still have the chance of being a standout applicant. And if you take the time in really putting in effort in these pieces of your application, which is the clubs and activities, your essay, short answer, and interactions with campus, you can still be a standout applicant. So let's talk about how this will look like in your application. And before I get ahead of myself and all the pieces of how it'll look like in your application, where is our application? Just so we're all on the same page here. So our application is on the Common App along with over 1,000 other schools. So it's just as you see it on the screen here. So commonapp.org. It's completely free to create your account. And yeah, like I said, you'll find schools from Ivy League schools to community colleges to private, small, public, public. They're kind of a big variety of different colleges. So you'll see the tabs up top, the gray tabs. You'll have like my colleges. So as you start adding colleges that you're planning to apply to, you'll see them there. And then the Common App tab, that is the main application. This one, you will only get to fill it out once, and all of the universities that you're interested in will get to receive this same application, right? So it consists of 7 main sections. So the profile is all about yourself, the family, pretty self-explanatory, your education. So what's your current high school? Again, if you've taken any college credit or what past high schools you've attended. Testing, this is where you get to turn in those SAT, ACT, but there's also the opportunity to turn in AP and IB scores. So if you've taken those tests, you can also submit them in that section as well. And then you have your activities in writing. So this is a pretty simple application. The questions aren't meant to trick you, but there are some verbiage that can be a little confusing. So they do have the need help box that you'll see on the right here. And this one changes by each section. So it'll mainly answer some frequently asked questions that students get stumped on the sections. So check that one out if you're feeling a little bit confused. If you still don't understand or don't know how to answer a certain section, you can always shoot us an email. Like I said, we're here to help you and make sure that this is a smooth process. My tip to you guys is to get this out of the way. Like I said, they're pretty simple questions, but they're lengthy, right? There's like 6 different or 5 different sections that don't need much thought into it, like the activities and writing. So go through those sections. If you're anything like me and you tend to procrastinate, because this is definitely me, something that really motivates me is to start getting things crossed off my to-do list. So I start with the easy things off. And then when I get on a roll of like, okay, I'm getting going, right, I'm completing stuff, it motivates me to continue and then to finish the application. So this is just to give you a quick rundown of the Common App. Now, in the sections that I encourage students to take those extra time, to explain a little bit more and to really give that extra, spark to your application. The first one is in activities. This is where I get to see what kind of responsibilities you had along with your academics, right? So what did you have going on? You can tell me about the instrument, sport, or hobby that you've been doing since you were 6, or maybe something new that you've picked up. You can tell me if you did volunteering in your community, if you volunteered at a shelter, in your church, in a school, right? Anything that you've done Maybe you just help out at home. And I shouldn't just say just, because it is still a big responsibility that I want you to highlight that as well, right? So highlight anything that you've done outside of school. If you work a part-time job, right? Anything of that, right? Because I know that the grades and the classes that you've taken, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. So this is your opportunity to tell me, yeah, I mean, these were my grades, but this was everything else going on in my life in these 4 years, right? So really spend some time in this section. I love learning what students are involved in. This also gets me an idea of what kind of things you might be interested in college. And also for some scholarship opportunities, right? When I see that we have like some music scholarships or just different types of opportunities that I can pick up on from your activities and what you're involved in. So really spend some time in this section in letting us in on who you are outside of the classroom. Now, we talked about last week, right? We talked about the main essay. So I won't go into that one because Donna did an amazing job in brainstorming. So if you missed last week, we do have it recorded, and I would encourage you guys to go back, grab a pen and paper, and get started on that brainstorming session for your main essay. My big tip for that one is, like I said, that main essay, every single university that you apply to will get it. So keep it broad, try not to name drop any specific university because it won't really make you stand out other than that one university that you specifically named. So try to keep it very broad. However, with the short answers, this is where you get to be very specific, right? So some schools will have more than one, but at Pacific, we only have one. And it's a very simple question again. It's how does Pacific University fit into your educational and long-term goals? The maximum word count is 200. You can definitely do less than that. But it doesn't take that long to take the time, right, and answer this question. So I would encourage you guys to take 10 minutes browsing through our website and pick something that stands out to you. It can be something very specific, like an academic program that you want to go into. Maybe you see a fun class that they have on there. Maybe you see some of the opportunities to get into a graduate program within that educational program, right? So be specific in that way. Maybe you don't really know what you want to study yet, and you appreciate that at Pacific. You don't have to make up your mind until the end of your sophomore year. So you maybe want to mention that, right? So just take those 10 minutes browsing through the website, find a couple things that stand out to you, and write it in here, right? Because not every single student does that. So when I see a student that really takes the time to one, pay attention to this question and takes the time to answer it, in an eloquent manner and highlight those specifics, I know that the student's really excited to be a boxer. It lets me know that they want to learn more, that they're engaged, right? So this really makes an application stand out to me. One of the most common questions that I get from students is, how do I talk about an academic blip, or if they had some sort of like struggle within their academic years? Students will say different things to kind of bring this question up. So there's multiple ways that I encourage students to bring it up. Some students will decide to speak on it on their main essay. There's also this section on the Common App. It's right below the essay section, and it's called additional information. So you can either add anything that COVID related that affected your academics or affected you in any way, your health, your well-being, your safety, that you would want to expand on. So that's the first one that you can answer. And then if you want to keep it more broad, if it wasn't necessarily COVID related, but there was definitely still something that you want to expand on, there's this second option right here. So it says, do you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications not reflected in your application? This would be another section where you could expand on it. and we'll get to read that as well. And then for these two, they have a maximum of 250 words. So you'll have plenty of space, to get that through. But again, the other option is writing it in your main essay. But this is another really nice tool to use. Now, as you start finishing up the different sections of the Common App, you'll see little green check marks letting you know this is all clear, this is good to go. And then you'll start feeling, of that you're ready to hit submit. So we've all heard the saying, the early bird gets the worm, right? So being the first improves your chances of success, essentially, is what, this saying is trying to say. And I encourage students to apply early, and there's literally an early bird deadline, that's what it's called, which is November 1st. And it's pretty much across all different universities and colleges. And this is what I encourage students to do, right? You are all here ahead of the game, getting this information early. So try and apply by November 1st. Yes, we are on rolling admission, and that just basically means that if a senior applies in April, we'll still get to review their application, we'll still get to admit them, we're still excited for them to come to Pacific, right? But when you apply early, you're getting ahead of all these different opportunities, right? One, you're going to have peace of mind that you're not going to be worried about this application. Two, you get to be back on the driver's seat. You get to be back in control, right? When you are applying, it can be a little nerve-wracking, right? Of who's going to say yes, who's going to say no. But as soon as you get those answers back, now you're in the driver's seat. Now we're the ones biting our nails, and we're the ones that are going to be like, oh my gosh, is this student going to say yes to us or no, right? So you get to be back in control of your college journey and just get to know more of the different universities that you're interested in, right? And then you also will get to hear from opportunities like getting a student mentor early on. So there's a lot of perks, right? Scholarship opportunities that the university will have. We'll talk a little bit more about like merit scholarships and your financial aid award in the upcoming sessions. But the moment that you get admitted, you start building on your financial aid award. So it's really important for students to apply early and get going on that package, right, to make college the most affordable. And speaking of scholarship opportunities, let's touch on the last point, which is connections with campus. So we genuinely want to know you more, right? I've said this multiple times, and there's multiple ways for you guys to connect with us. So one is showing up to the high school visits. On our website, when you find out who your counselor is, you actually get to see our whole travel schedule. You get to see at what high schools we're going to be at what time, and what college fairs. Plus, we send out those emails, right? But if you want to know already where we're going to be this fall season, you can actually check that out. So you can connect with us there. You can come to campus to events like Senior Preview Day, which is an amazing event of students coming to campus either in person or virtually. So if you cannot fly to campus, we completely understand. And you'll get to hear from, faculty and staff, and you get a tour. But the best of all is that you get to walk out with a $4,000 scholarship if you decide to come to Pacific. So it's a great event, right, to come to, and you make those connections, right? And even attending Zoom meetings like this one, right? You're letting us know that you're engaged, that you want to know more. And the more that we start building this relationship between you and your admissions counselor, it's really beneficial, because when I hear of a scholarship, either if it's within Pacific or even if it's in the community, right? And I know you and I know your interest. I know how well you've done, right? I know what you want to do after college, right? I'm going to be thinking of you, and I'm going to say, hey, there's this amazing opportunity, and I'll connect the two, right? So start connecting with us, start connecting with these universities, and start building your support system, because we're all here to help you in making this, process smooth easy, just getting you guys to college. So I want to open up the floor for any questions and answer them.
Tanya, we did have some questions submitted before, so I can go through a few of those questions. Students, you're welcome to put questions into the chat as those are coming up. So Tanya, what order should I put my extracurriculars in? Should I put it in any particular order?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would encourage you to start with the most recent first, and then go on to the oldest. So kind of like a resume for a job, right? You go in from the earliest or the most recent activity or the most recent experience that you've had, and then you go on from there. Yeah, great question.
Thank you, Tanya. And in the chat, we've got a question of when is the senior campus meeting?
Would that be like the senior preview day?
I believe so.
Okay, so senior preview day is awesome because it pretty much goes on starting this Friday all the way through December. So there's multiple opportunities. You can check them out on our website because I do not memorize these dates by memory, but it's essentially practically like every Friday, some Saturdays. And like I said, we have multiple in-person events and then a couple virtual ones.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm going to put into the chat a link to that preview day. And it's pacificu.edu/SR preview for anyone that's watching the recording. Okay, another question has come in, Tanya. If I took a college class, should I mail you the transcript?
Yeah, so you can mail it, you can email it. It has to come from the institution. So for example, with a community college, they have a portal where you can request it. And you can request to have it sent to a specific institution, so it'll get straight to us. So yeah, it has to come from that institution. Same thing like your high school, it has to come from your high school. We cannot receive the transcript from a student emailing it to us. So yeah, so they'll have a process of how you can request it, and it'll get straight to our inbox.
Excellent. Thank you, Tanya. A clarifying question in the chat. Does a student need to apply to Pacific before they visit for the senior preview scholarship day?
No, you don't. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we have plenty of students that come check it out and then they'll hit submit. Actually, on that day, we actually do have some booths that we'll have. If you're struggling in your application or in your essay, we'll get to review your essay if you would like us to take a look. So a lot of students are still working through their application when they come to visit. Other students have already applied, and then we get to let them know the good news when they come to visit. So it just depends.
Excellent. Okay, a different type of question, Tanya. What are some good tips to make the college search and application process fun and easy?
That's a great question. Well, fun, I think it's up to you. You know, you got to make it fun. You have to have fun with it. But a good tips to narrowing down the college search is the biggest one could be location, right? Looking at, I mean, there's so many schools just in the US, there's so many schools within a state. So kind of narrowing down, okay, maybe these are the states that I'm interested in. And then, okay, like this is the location that I want to go. Maybe this is how far away from home I'm willing to go. And then after that, looking at the academic programs, looking at I had no idea what I wanted to study. So for me, it was like, I needed to find a place where I can move around, where I can explore my ideas and, you know, figure out what I want to do, because at 18, I could not for the life of me pick out my life career. So if this is you, right, maybe start with location and then start looking at those academic programs or the flexibility that you'll have in that school.
That's great advice, Tanya. And that actually leads into another question that came in, which is, how do you know what school is a good fit?
Yeah, this is a great question. And it's very personal to you. So my biggest tip is to visit schools. Visit as many as you can. Visit the ones that you're really interested in. If you're now down to 2, maybe now you're down to 3, try and visit those 3, right? Because on the website, they're all going to look great. They're all going to look beautiful, pretty, amazing, right? So when you visit the university, you'll actually get to feel the culture of the campus, right? You'll get to see students walking around. Maybe you'll see some professors in the dining hall. Maybe you won't see any of that, right? So you will get to get a feel and then, decide, do I envision myself here this upcoming fall? How do I feel myself fitting in here? So I would encourage you guys to try and visit and get a feel for that campus.
Okay, Tanya, switching gears to another question. What are common mistakes students make when filling out the Common App?
Yeah, I think that a common mistake is rushing through, for example, like activities. I've seen students that don't answer any of that section, or not, like, for example, like the short answer question. Like I said, it takes like 10 minutes, right, to do a quick search into that school that you're applying to. So it's not necessarily a mistake, but if you really want to stand out, it's something that's so simple, right? To take those extra minutes in those like sections, right? If there are tools that are given to you, take them and make the most of them, right? Don't just pass through that section and say, it's okay, I'll skip through it, right? Because so many students will do that. So really take time and effort into this application.
Yeah, Tanya, that's great advice. I think one mistake I sometimes see for students is that I'll see their letter of recommendation, or I'll talk to a teacher that they've worked with, and they tell me all these amazing things that the student has done, and the student doesn't list them in their application. So if it's sitting down with your high school counselor, or sitting down with someone that's in your corner, and get a list going of the things that you could put in that activities or honor section, or maybe even that essay. So okay, another question is, can I contact my counselor before I get accepted to Pacific?
Of course, yeah, you can always reach out to us. Yeah, while you're in the process of applying, if you haven't even started, you can always reach out to us. You can reach us through email, you can call us, we're happy to help.
Yes, and another question that's come into the chat is, what happens if you make one of those mistakes that we were just talking about? Do you not get accepted?
Yeah, I feel like those are not like with activities, or if you don't go too in depth in the short answer questions, they're not mistakes to where I would say, oh no, the student's not fit for Pacific. No, not at all. But if you maybe did rush through those sections, like I said, there's all these other interactions that we get to have with you, whether it be in person, we can schedule a Zoom meeting. So there's other ways that we can get to know you. But yeah, they're not worth like, no, you're denied. But if you really want to stand out, really spend time in these sections. Yeah.
Okay, one other question coming in. What if my extracurriculars aren't interesting enough? Does that make my chances lower?
No, no, oh my gosh. Yes, this is what I'm talking about, guys. We tend to be so harsh on ourselves. I am so fascinated by everything that our students are involved in. So when you look at your list, know that your list is fascinating, right? I will look at the clubs that you're involved in, sports, or if you're helping out at home, I'm gonna be like, wow, this is amazing, right? The student's so selfless, the student's so hardworking, right? So share all that with us, right? We love to read all about you.
Yeah, and do we require an interview or recommend an interview?
Don't require an interview. Some schools will. I didn't apply to schools that had interviews. Donna, Maddie, do you guys know anything about like interviews in the admission process?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you folks hear me okay?
Mhm.
Perfect. So we always recommend any any opportunity that you can get in front of your admissions counselor or staff or whoever is supporting you with your admissions process, definitely reach out and just say, and the scary part about interviews is feeling like, oh, what do we talk about? How long will this be? Will I have enough things to discuss or questions to ask? We always tell students that you can set those guidelines and boundaries where you say, hey, I want to talk to my admissions counselor about scholarships. I have 15 minutes, just wondering if someone can chat with me about scholarships, because it's something that I'm really intimidated by and would like some support. And you can say if you would like a Zoom or a phone call, right? So you're able to decide and kind of set those guidelines so it's not feeling so overwhelming and intimidating. But we love hearing from you folks about what you're interested in, what your worries are, so we can help make that process easier. I've never had a student say, I set up a meeting and oh my gosh, I feel horrible. It's always like, wow, I feel better. I feel more confident. Wow, they're really nice. Wow, that was really great. I feel encouraged. So please do that.
Thank you, Donna. Next question in the chat. Will too many letters of recommendation or activities or other content in the application hurt me on my application?
Yeah, great question. No, honestly, the more the merrier. With letters of rec, sometimes it's hard, to get that many. But I also know some students that are like, I have like 6 teachers lined up ready to give me those letters of rec. So if you are one of those students, you can definitely send them all, but know that it won't like impact you in like a more positive way if you have 6 versus only 1 or none. Like I said, the letter of rec at this point for Pacific, it's just used for another advocate for you, but it's not a requirement. And then with activities and all, overload it. Tell us all about yourself. We love to hear that.
Yeah, I would add to that, Tanya, if you have more than what Common App allows you to enter, which I believe you're allowed to enter 10 activities in the activities section. So if you have more than 10 and you're finding that Common App is not allowing you to enter in those, you can utilize the additional comments section and kind of use, hey, here's a list of all the other things I'm involved in. You can also email that directly to an admissions counselor, putting it into your Common App so that anyone reading your application at any school would be a good idea. But do know that sometimes Common App will limit you to a certain amount, and I think it's 10. Well, I think that actually is all of our questions. We'll give students just a couple more minutes to put into the chat any additional questions that y'all might have. Remember, you know us now, so you really truly can reach out to us at any point in time. We're here to support you in this entire college process. So whenever those questions come up.
Yes, thank you, Maddie. So with that being said, and since all questions were answered, we will see you guys next week, same time in our Zoom room. See you guys.
See you soon, everyone. Good luck. You're going to do great.
Thanks, everyone.
We're so proud of you.
Great questions. Oh. Yeah, we've got a question in the chat. Does Pacific offer an ROTC program? Pacific does not offer an ROTC program on Pacific's campus. Students can partner with some other Portland universities. The majority of those students will go through the University of Portland as an ROTC student. So Pacific does have students doing ROTC programs, but they're not on Pacific's campus necessarily. I hope that answers your question.
You're welcome.